Welcome to the Candidate Forum hosted by the League of Women Voters of Elmhurst. My name is Patty Lackman, and I am from the League of Women Voters of Central Kane County. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization that neither supports nor opposes candidates or parties for office. The League's purpose is to promote political responsibility through the informed and active participation of citizens in government. Providing this forum allows citizens to become better informed about the issues facing their community and to become better acquainted with the candidates running for office. We are happy to provide this service for the community. The League of Women Voters is not responsible for verifying the accuracy of the statements that candidates make in this forum. At this time, I would ask that you please turn off cell phones and other electronic devices. I would also ask that you refrain from applauding or in other ways demonstrating support or opposition of a candidate. No campaign literature may be passed out in this room, and feel free to put your campaign bling on once you leave this room. No cards and pencils have been provided on which the audience may submit your questions. Questions will be screened only for duplication, clarity, and appropriateness for the office being discussed. Please signal a League volunteer when your question is ready for submission. Also, signal a volunteer if additional note cards are needed. Realize that we may not get to all questions. This forum is for the two candidates running for DuPage County Board, District 1. The term is 4 years. Both candidates have agreed to abide by the rules set forth prior to this forum. They will each present a 1-minute introductory statement, the order determined alphabetically by last name. Then questions will be asked, and each candidate will have 1 minute to respond in alternating order. Closing statements in continuing alpha rotation will also be 1 minute. League of Women Voters Elmhurst members will be keeping time. If you raise your hands right here, and candidates will strictly adhere to the time limits. Candidates, please notice the timers. When you see the stop sign, you may finish your sentence, but let's now go on to another paragraph. Our candidates are Cindy Cronin Cahill and Maria Sinule. We will now start with opening statements from candidate Cronin Cahill.
Hi, my name is Cindy Cronin Cahill. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for inviting me here today. I'm a lifelong Elmhurst resident, graduate of IC High School and the University of Notre Dame. My father was a doctor who served this community, and he and my mom instilled in me the values of faith, family, and service to the community. My husband and I chose DuPage County to raise our 5 children because we love our Elmhurst community. I'm a CPA with government audit experience. I have a CPA firm here in town, and I served in these very chambers as your Elmhurst City Treasurer. I was elected 2 years ago, and my work has just begun. I'm proud of my record, and I've worked hard in a bipartisan manner for the people of DuPage County. I've distinguished myself on the board by being fiscally responsible, seeking government efficiencies, accountability, and transparency in the budgeting process and through every aspect of county government. I'm honored to have the endorsements of the mayors, law enforcement, and the unions because of my accomplishments, hard work, and financial expertise.
Thank you. Candidate Sinule, your opening.
Thank you. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for having me here as well. My name is Maria Sinule, and I am a dedicated, long-term, have lived in Addison for such a long time in DuPage County. I have served as a school social worker for 17 years in my own community and understand what we need as far as mental health services and support within our own. I have my doctorate in social work from Aurora University that I received in 2020 during COVID. And I also have my master's and bachelor's degree from the University of Illinois in social work. One of the reasons I am choosing to run for this position is because I want to ensure that people that look like me, people in my community, have a voice and understand what it means to receive the support from their own community. I am supported by my own congressional candidates, state legislators, and other county board officials as endorsements that I have, as well as my own union, the Illinois Education Association. I appreciate your support and time in this forum.
Thank you. We'll start with candidate Sinule for the first question. What are the most pressing issues facing DuPage County, and how would you propose to address them?
I feel that the pressing issues that DuPage County is currently encountering are the disparities that have been identified through the Impact DuPage study. Some of the issues that are coming up within our own communities, like Addison and Bensonville, is the mental health gap, the disparities that we have, food insecurity, and access to health care. I believe that the county board will work, across all aisles, but also across state and federal government to ensure that we have the money allocated for the communities that we represent. I believe that these are the three issues that we currently have that face all community members and residents in our area. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Cronin Cahill.
Can you repeat the question?
What are the most pressing issues facing DuPage County, and how do you propose to address them?
I believe the most pressing issues facing DuPage County right now are financial considerations. First of all, we are losing ARPA funds this year, and we have to balance our budget without the use of federal funding. Second, I do believe public safety is a critical, important factor that we have to fund and make sure that we support public safety for DuPage County. 3, mental health and food insecurity are issues, but we have done a lot on the county board, and we continue to do so. I voted to fund the Crisis Recovery Center, which is a mental health, first of its kind, mental health center in DuPage County, and we're in the process of building that right now. It will be completed in April of 2025. And in terms of food insecurity, I serve on the county board, and for Addison and Bensonville, I have made sure that those food pantries have received the proper funds to feed the people of DuPage County.
Thank you. Candidate Cronin Cahill, what will your budget priorities be?
My budget priorities are threefold. Number one, I strongly believe to fund public safety. We need to make sure that the people of DuPage are safe, the children are safe, and the communities are safe. Number two, I believe that mental health is a significant issue, and I will certainly fund any further issues we have for mental health. 3, I believe that we need to take care of the most vulnerable in the population. We need to make sure that affordable housing is a big issue in DuPage County. I have voted $5 million to support affordable housing, and I serve on the Affordable Housing Committee, and I look forward to working with that. I also serve on the DuPage Council for Strengthening the System for Mental Health and Addiction. Addiction and the fentanyl crisis is a big issue in DuPage County right now, and we need to do more for that, and I look forward to working with those experts in that area.
Thank you. Candidate Sinule, what will your budget priorities be?
One of them is transportation. I feel like in our community, we do not have systems that connect or communicate across our county. It is important that people have accessible transportation, which means our metro system and our PACE system and our busing system communicate, especially for areas like my own where we do not have consistent transportation, and that creates a barrier for individuals who need to go to work. Additionally, similar to some of Cindy's points, mental health for me is a huge priority. I'm a school social worker and understand the need for mental health services and how much it impacts my own community. My own community is 68% low income, and a lot of the services that are offered at the county don't necessarily trickle down into my own community, as well as affordable housing. That has been a big concern, in communities like Bensonville and Addison, and I have a lot of families who struggle to make rent, which means they do not have the opportunity to make rent sometimes, make a down payment as well, or have access to programs that help them with rental assistance.
Thank you. Along those same lines, what is your vision for increasing transportation options in DuPage County to make it accessible to all? And we'll start with candidate Sinule.
Most recently, I am actually knocking doors alongside State Representative Diane Blair-Sherlock, and she is actually one of the main people, our state legislators, that sits on the Transportation Committee. I think it's important for us to communicate with our own state legislators, especially when funding becomes allocated to our own communities that help sustain transportation system. Right now, like I mentioned before, there's merger that we're talking about related to our transportation system consisting of Metro, the CTA, but also it's important to look at PACE and any other public transportation like buses, right, that makes jobs accessible, that creates opportunities for people in our own community.
Thank you. Candidate Cronin Cahill.
I have sat in so many different meetings with PACE and Metra to discuss the transportation issues. And part of the big issue is not just the bus, but going from the train station to the place of work. And we have worked with PACE and Metra to provide like vans and so forth that will take the people from the metro station to the place of work. Transportation is a big issue, but it comes down to funding, and this is what I offer. I'm a CPA. I'm a businesswoman. I can save taxpayer dollars. One of the things that I did is I advised our board to take $10 million from the surplus and pay down a growing liability on the books. As a result of that, I saved between $100,000 and $200,000 of taxpayer dollars, $100,000 to $200,000 of taxpayer dollars going forward. So I'm a CPA. I can look at those numbers and say, what can we do to save transportation, to provide the needed, to save money, to provide the needed services to the people of DuPage County?
Thank you. Candidate Cronin Cahill, what specific steps would you support for moving to clean energy use and greater energy efficiency for our county?
I serve on the Environmental Committee, and I'm proud to be on that committee for 2 years now, working closely. I listen and work with our chair, Sheila Rutledge, on many initiatives the county has. The county currently put all sorts of solar panels on the top of the county. We have green space that we're taking area and growing, planting more trees and growing more plants to create clean space, to create clean air. I'm an environmentalist at heart. For instance, I believe in green space. Right here in Elmhurst, my office was in the DuPage Medical Building. I was an owner of that. We sold that to the Park District. For what reason? To create green space in downtown Elmhurst. That is now a beautiful park, an extension of the Gloss Park, because our priorities in my family was green space for DuPage County.
Thank you. Candidate Sinule.
Can you repeat the question?
What specific steps would you support for moving to clean energy use and greater energy efficiency for the county if you're elected?
I think it's important to also note that Governor Pritzker signed into law Senate Bill 2960, which is a small single-use plastic bottle act. So I think it's important for us to also be up to date with what's happening at the state and ensuring that us as county level members, right, are following state legislation, which means having that act, what does that look like at the county with small single-use plastic bottles, ensuring that we're abiding by that act, within our own, but also ensuring that we have, green space, which means when we look at our own communities, right, there's a lot of construction that is occurring and not a lot of preservation of our green space, like our parks. A lot of the areas are being built, have industrial-sized buildings, right, that is not really conducive to our own communities and ensuring that we have the green space that we need and also abiding by some of these environmental concerns that we have as citizens.
Thank you. What steps would you take to increase affordable or moderate cost housing in DuPage County? Candidate Sinule, you go first.
Thank you. One of the goals that I believe is the county board has already allocated money. I think it's important to ensure that residents, for example, receive some of that support when it comes to rental assistance. As I mentioned before, I work with a lot of families in my own community that struggle to make rent. I've had a lot of families that during COVID, we applied to some of the rental assistance programs through the Illinois Housing Development Authority, and they actually were not candidates for that type of funding. So what are we doing as county, at the county level, to ensure that we have funding allocation that comes into our own communities where we have parents that are struggling to make ends meet, not just for rent, but for mortgage. We have families that, have a disability, and not a lot is being done to help support families that have experienced this as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Cronin Cahill.
I serve on the Affordable Housing Task Force. I voted to fund $5 million to our affordable housing. This is a priority of Chair Conroy and really a priority of all of us on the county board. We recognize that there's a need in this county for affordable housing and for housing for veterans, for seniors, and rent assistance. We also have put in place the DuPage Pad Center. This is a permanent housing center. It was an old Red Roof Inn, and I have found a number of my constituents who've applied and have gotten in to the DuPage Pad Center, and I've helped them get into the DuPage Pad Center. That currently serves 300 families. So we recognize that it's a priority in the county, and we're all working on this affordable housing task force to do everything we can to help the people in DuPage County.
Thank you. Will you commit to uphold the Protect Illinois Communities Act, banning the sale of certain assault weapons and high-capacity magazines? Candidate Cronin Cahill.
I support reasonable gun laws. I support the gun laws of the state of Illinois right now. I want to tell you what we're doing right now at the county board to create gun safety. Our legislative committee, we've all voted for certain gun-specific restrictions or safe gun laws for our legislative committee, and we all passed it, we all voted on it, and it goes to our state representatives to tell us how we feel in the county. Before I was on the county board, the county did vote to ban assault weapons, to say that was the majority of the opinion on the county board voted to oppose assault weapons. I also want to tell you what we're doing here in DuPage County. The sheriff right now is working with technology to respond to emergency. He is getting PIN codes for schools. He is getting blueprints, technology locking. We're looking for ways in DuPage County, new ways to keep our children safe. We follow all the state laws with the Gun Safe Storage Act, but we work toward that. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Sinule, same question.
I do support the assault weapon ban. As someone that works in the school, I understand the needs of my student having to go through ALICE training, having to go through a couple scares ourselves within our own school. I understand the need to support a ban on assault weapons. Nothing like having to come to school and fear what's going to happen to yourself and your students when you walk into the building. That is what it feels like every day to work as a school social worker. As someone that works in an education position, it is important for individuals to understand what our students go through, especially when we hear the practice drills within our school. So for me, it's really important. As a mom's demand gun sense candidate, it is really, really crucial for us to support a ban.
Thank you. Candidate Sinule, what are your thoughts on how the county board is addressing the mental health crisis?
I believe the county board has a lot of good programs that they have in place, like the DuPage and Narcan program that kind of helps with the opioid crisis, as well as a crisis center that they recently built. What I wish before the establishment of the crisis center is that there would be consideration from our own constituents as to where these locations would be built. As someone that has to connect families to mental health services in Addison and also has to field calls from other neighboring communities, it is really hard to find beds for our students, especially when they have a mental health crisis. A lot of our students wind up going to the hospital that takes public health insurance, like Glen Oaks, and they won't make it to a Wheaton mental health care facility because they have public health insurance. So I think it's important for us to not only just advocate for one crisis center, but to amp up, support, create more jobs, right, in the area of mental health, but only because there's a need, right, to serve our students, to serve our community, to serve our families. Thank you.
Candidate Cronin Cahill.
53 million Americans suffer with mental health issues. I don't have the exact number for DuPage County, but we know it's a crisis. Last week, I attended a funeral of a young man who died of an overdose. Mental health and addiction are directly related. I have worked hard on the DuPage County Board with this issue. I serve on the DuPage Council for Strengthening the System. I was honored to be appointed by Chair Conray to serve on this committee. I'm a mother of 5 adult children. I know what's happening in the community, and we have allocated Resources. We started out by allocating $250,000 to the DuPage Council for Strengthening the System. We allocated $5 million for the Crisis Recovery Center. It is a beginning, but it is something that we are working really hard on, and we will help and solve this issue.
Thank you. Along those lines, how can the county board be a partner counteracting the opioid epidemic? Candidate Cronin Cahill.
So, as I said, I serve on DuPage Council for Strengthening the System for Mental Health and Addiction. Fentanyl is a scourge in our community. 114 deaths in DuPage County in 2023 were a result of fentanyl, were a result of opioids, and most of those had fentanyl in it. That's according to our coroner. So it's a scourge in DuPage County. We need to work at the DuPage Crisis Center to bring in people. We need to educate in the schools. We need to provide Narcan, which should be readily available. We need to do more preventative measures to help the young people understand that fentanyl is just the most dangerous drug of all. And one little pill that looks like it's something else has fentanyl in it, and it could kill you.
Thank you. Candidate Sinule.
Very similar to what was stated, as mentioned, right? Mental health and substance use can co-occur together, right? So it's important that we address both, ensuring that we have the mental health services that we need to support students, right, and families in our community, but also ensuring programs similar to the DuPage Narcan program, right, continue to exist, right, as well as having funding allocated. Senator Villa passed a bill not too long ago that allows social workers to actually carry the Narcan, right? When you start thinking about who needs to carry, who needs the training, I think that's also important. We need to have people who are trained, right, to be able to administer, potential life-saving, treatment to people that may be, overdosing, on substances. Thank you.
You both sort of touched on this topic, but we'll ask you for more specific information. How well do you think the programs in DuPage County are helping the unhoused, and what more needs to be done? Candidate Sinule.
I feel that more could be done to address the housing instability. I have families that currently live in hotels, are currently homeless, and aren't candidates for the DuPage PADS program, especially when you have families that might have older students. Oftentimes families are separated and they can't be living in the same homeless shelter together. They're often separated. So it's figuring out a way, how can we provide the support that families need when this happens, but also what are some preventative things that we could put in place that could ensure people have consistent housing, whether this is creating affordable housing units, right, to help support families. Oftentimes the rent in our own communities tends to be high. I have families who struggle to pay rent, not just because they're high, but because when parents need to prove residency, oftentimes when they request a contract, landlords will increase the rent on the condition that they will get, their contract, right? So this requires parents to pay more money in rent. There's a hike because of that.
Thank you. Candidate Cronin Cahill, same question.
I serve on the Affordable Housing Task Force for the county, and we have allocated $5 million. We also had a lot of ARPA funds that we were able to put towards the initiatives at the county. Is it enough? We're trying. We're doing everything possible. We're trying to help people in the communities, the unhoused individuals. I attended an intergovernmental meeting in Addison last week and I learned that there are so many grade school children that are unhoused now in Addison. And how are we going to, it's a humanitarian issue. They're getting hot breakfast and hot lunch in the schools. But we as a county have to help direct them to PADS, direct them to the Illinois Department of Public Housing, and then we also need to just work towards initiatives to help these people. Thank you.
Thank you. In a way to keep your constituents informed about your activities, how would you increase your communications with your constituents? Candidate Cronin Cahill.
I have served for 2 years on the DuPage County Board, and my husband and children say I am never home. I am out constantly. I go to every intergovernmental meeting. I go to everything. I show up. I have the endorsement of all the mayors in DuPage District 1 because why? I work with them, I listen to them, I understand what their needs are, and I work toward resolving those needs. So how would my communication? I send out emails, I go to everything, I listen to people, I really try to be responsive to the constituents in District 1. And I've heard some things, for instance, I support the residential integrity of a community. When the mayors say, we don't want this 4-story storage building going up, it's not appropriate in our community, I work in a bipartisan manner with other county board members to support that mayor so that the people of that district get what they want.
Thank you. Candidate Sinule.
So I think in addition to intergovernmental meetings, I think it's really important for us to know what our constituents need. So in addition to meeting the request of those meetings, it's important to hold town halls, but also, when I went door knocking, someone had mentioned, what would you do or what can you do to stay connected to make sure you still have a pulse on what the needs of the communities are, right? That also means attending, right? If there are events within our own communities, maybe parents in the communities are hosting meeting events, right? Making sure to attend those, right? Ensuring that we know that all voices are being heard, by attending other meetings outside of what's required of us.
Thank you. Do you support the legislation proposed by the chairman of the DuPage County Board to resolve the dispute over approving expenses over $30,000 between the county clerk's office and the DuPage County Board? And this will be the last question.
Me first.
Candidate Sinule. No. Yes. Candidate Sinule.
Can you repeat the question again, please?
Lost my place.
Sorry, can you repeat the question again, please?
Do you support the legislation proposed by the chairman of the DuPage County Board to resolve the dispute over approving expenses over $30,000 between the county clerk's office and the DuPage County Board?
Seeing that there's pending litigation in regards to her proposition, I'm not saying that I'm not in support of something like this. The issue comes with the transparency as to how this was proposed within the legislation. I don't believe that a lot of the constituents knew that this was placed in a bill, to provide what the county thought was more transparency, when I do believe a lot of these conversations related to how money is being spent could be communicated, with the board in a constructive way, where we can come to solutions instead of wasting taxpayer dollars, right, to take things to dispute in order to resolve an issue that could be handled within the county.
Thank you. Candidate Cronin Cahill.
Yes, I 100% support County Board Deb Chairman in this proposal. So I sat there during meetings. I'm a CPA. I look at the audit report. Our county clerk is not going out for bid. It refuses to go out for bid. We tried meeting after meeting to solve this internally, talking about it. Our state's attorney gave an opinion. The state's attorney said the county clerk must go out to bid. Our Illinois Office of Attorney General gave an opinion. The state's attorney must go out to bid. Deb Conroy went down to the state legislature. They came out and said the clerk's office must go out to bid. She refuses to do so. Now it is a lawsuit that Bob Berlin has filed against our clerk because she refuses to go out to bid. I 100% support our chair on this initiative. This is what government's about. Transparency, going out to bid. Why wouldn't you do the right thing? I actually brought it up with our auditors, and it resulted in a management letter comment in the public audited financial statements about the clerk not going out to bid.
Thank you. That was our final question, and so we will start with closing statements. And
Okay.
we will have candidate Cronin Cahill go first.
Can you make sure he starts the timer?
I'm sorry. I can't hear you.
Okay. All right, just go ahead. I look forward to continuing to serve the people of DuPage County for another term. My priorities on the board are to keep our children safe and our neighborhoods secure by fully supporting law enforcement. I will continue to apply my expertise to scrutinize the $600 million budget. As a licensed, practicing CPA, former government auditor, it is my responsibility to stand up for the taxpayers of DuPage County. As a member of the DuPage Council for Strengthening the System, I will continue to work with the experts to address mental health and addiction. I will care for the most vulnerable, the hungry, the homeless, and those suffering with mental health and addiction. Due to reduced federal funding, we need to boost economic development to create jobs to generate additional revenue. I'm proud that my bipartisan actions on the board have resulted in the endorsement of mayors, law enforcement, and unions, and I believe my experience and my record for results for the taxpayers makes me the best candidate to represent District 1.
Thank you. Candidate Sinule.
Again, thank you. Again, I want to thank everyone for being part of this forum, and thank you to the League of Women Voters as well for hosting us. As someone that lives and has worked in my community as a school social worker, I understand the needs that we have within our own communities. I have a doctorate in social work that I acquired in 2020 from Aurora University. I also have research related to the impacts of our own communities and the needs that we have. I think it's essential for us to have someone on the county board that is and works in a bipartisan manner, but also listens to the constituents and makes sure that people feel included and a part of our own community. As someone that has been on the library board as a past president, I know what it means to serve our community. I was on for 6 years, and during those 6 years, I did not increase taxes on 3 of the 6 years that I was on, right? It is unnecessary to us to have tax increases on a community, that we do not need to increase taxes on, right? Which means we are fiscally responsible. I think it's essential to have someone with my experience, my lived experience, and also my work, in the community and what it means for our own constituents. Thank you.
Thank you. Our time is up for this forum. For more information, please visit the nonpartisan Illinois Voter Guide, illinoisvoterguide.org, the candidates' websites, as well as the League of Women Voters of Elmhurst website. Your participation as a candidate and as a voter is essential to preserving democracy that we hold dear. Please remember to vote on or before November 5th, as one vote can decide the election, and that one vote could be yours. Let's give the candidates a round.